It lets us, at least as people, start to question. And so, and that's where editorial cartoons are incredibly important and vital. What the editorial cartoon is telling you is, it smells funny.
Politicians in general are a fearful lot, not just from satirists, from lobbyists, from anybody with an ist. A politician is a salesperson whose trade is to get reelected, you know, so anything that threatens their control or their dominion, I imagine they'll be fearful of.
Those of us who criticize public officials do not expect them to like our comments as much as those put out by, say, well, their press secretaries. And we're not surprised when some politicians take potshots at us. When things begin to get rough is when it's suggested that there's something wrong or unpatriotic about criticism of officials and policies, and that the press should mind its own business.
Are you now, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
One of the reasons that so many of us don't criticize people in power is that we tend to be blinded by the brilliance of their stature. I think the natural reaction is to assume that they got there for good reason. And if I don't immediately understand their brilliance, it's because I'm stupid, not because they are. Herb was unencumbered by that self-doubt.
The raw, harsh, unpleasant fact is that communism is an issue and will be an issue in 1954.
Joe McCarthy was the great archangel of American life. He was the greatest demagogue in American history, and I say great in the sense that it was the most significant. He did the most damage.
The thing that the American people can do is to be vigilant day and night to make sure they don't have communists teaching the sons and daughters of America.
McCarthy brought the nation to its feet on the question of communists in government. And on its feet, the nation did not respond very well. They went along without any kind of evidence. Much of the country believed that our government was infiltrated with spies from the Politburo, that they were in the highest positions in the State Department, as McCarthy charged.
He created a wave of fear and suspicion, guilt by association. He was a bully. He attacked people. He slandered them. He made false claims. He ruined people's reputations. It was a vicious period.
I can't talk in the office about how I feel about my politics because I could get in trouble. I could get fired. People did get fired. They were loyalty oaths, and loyalty oaths supported by liberal Democrats. The word peace itself was a no-no. You couldn't say that word peace without being suspected.
What you got was, to be a liberal was to be a communist, was to be a spy.
In recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it. But there are other communists
who don't show their real faces, who work more silently.
The purpose was not only to defeat, but to destroy. And many reputable people in and out of government were questioned.
Being anti-Joe McCarthy in the early 50s was not without risk. There weren't a lot of people around in those days who were willing to go public and who were willing to stick to their guns. In some respects, an editorial cartoonist occupies the same role that a court jester might occupy. He gets away with stuff that others cannot say. But even court jesters got executed every once in a while.
Here is herblock, who's not a journalist. He's not going to the hearings. He's saying, I'm looking at this guy, and this is what I think.
Herb had absolutely no compunction about being the first to stand up. Picture McCarthy as he was and as Herblock correctly perceived him.
What was going on was a kind of unorganized, un-American revolution in which the smear bucket brigade was trying to sack our institutions.
Dwight David Eisenhower is paralyzed paralyzed to even criticize the man when he attacks George Marshall, who had been Eisenhower's closest military confidant and friend.
There is McCarthy standing smiling with an axe in his hand, and the President of the United States pulling out a feather. Very few cartoonists had the courage, very few editorialists had the courage, and no networks had the courage to attack Joe McCarthy.
He got the moral and constitutional imperatives right